Hello, happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Fandom United podcast. Geo here. Those images look pretty awesome, don't they? I thought I'd include them in the intro. Those behind the scene images from Vanity Fair. That's what today's show will be about mostly. The Vanity Fair article that has released yesterday. And, before we start, I'll just say, as a DC fan enthusiast, it's rewarding, okay? It's rewarding that our conjectures, our worst fears, a lot of it is coming to light. And, you know, I, uh, I couldn't be more happier for everyone out there who, has endured so much, been so patient. And, yeah, we're getting Zack Snyder's Justice League in about 22 days from this recording, 23, 22, around there. And, yeah, this article really made me feel happy inside. So let's break this article down from Vanity Fair. Um, Now, unlike previous articles that I've gone through, I normally just skim through the article and scroll up and down and make it real tough for you to follow. But instead, what I'm going to do is present to you these graphics I've made with paragraphs that I pulled out of the article. I'm not going to go through the whole entire thing, but I did pull out quite a bit. You can read the whole article on Vanity Fair if you'd like. Let's go through them, okay? And the first thing we're going to talk about right off the top is how the article starts off with Deborah Snyder and Christopher Nolan sitting in a private screening room for Justice League back in late 2017. And the article says, in late 2017, months after the couple cut ties, couple meaning Zack Snyder and Deborah Snyder, cut ties with the superhero epic amid an increasingly demoralizing battle with Warner Brothers, Deborah Snyder sat in the screening room on the studio lot alongside Christopher Nolan, one of the movie's executive producers, as well as the director of the Dark Knight trilogy. She braced herself as the lights went down. Deborah Snyder says, "It's a weird experience," she says now. "I don't know how many people have that experience. You've worked on something for a long time, and then you leave, and then you see what happened to it." After their private screening of the Whedon cut, Nolan and Deborah Snyder emerged into the light with a shared mission. "They came and they just said, 'You can never see that movie,'" Zack Snyder says, "because I knew it would break his heart," his wife adds. All right, so now we know why Zack Snyder hasn't seen the 2017 movie. Is that still the case? I'm not sure. I think he still hasn't seen it, and I don't think he's ever planning on watching it. Although that could change maybe decades later when he just sits down and is like, okay, I want to see what this is about. But the big takeaway for me is that Christopher Nolan, again, there are people out there who see the name Christopher Nolan as executive producer, and they're just like, oh, he's just that's just a formality now as far as DC movies go with Zack Snyder. He really has no interest in these movies. He hasn't had interest since The Dark Knight Rises. Well, you're wrong. You're wrong. He sat in a screening room with Deborah Snyder, and they watched that 2017 movie. And it's just I have even more of a respect for Christopher Nolan now. Okay, remember he handpicked Zack Snyder to be the director of this DC going forward post the Dark Knight trilogy. And yeah, if you think Christopher Nolan isn't excited about Zack Snyder's Justice League, that he won't be watching it if he hasn't seen it already, yeah, he'll definitely be watching it. And I'm excited to hear what he has to say about that movie. But let's continue in the article here. Next up, the article talks about Joss Whedon, and it goes more into it later on down in the article. But for here, it says, Joss Whedon, a director from another universe, the Marvel Cinematic one, left the Avengers after 2 movies and crossed over to comics rival DC, picking up Justice League not where Snyder left off, but remaking it significantly with extensive rewrites and hurried reshoots, just as the studio demanded. So there it is right there. If you guys remember, back in 2017, everybody had to, play it cool, okay? Like even the cast, they at the Comic-Con panel, they were like, yeah, Joss Whedon came in and, did a couple polishings and we're just about done, maybe a few touches here and there. And the most outspoken one of the cast, Ray Fisher, back in July of last year, took back everything that he said. And now we have proof years later that WB did bring in Whedon not to finish what Zack Snyder started, but to redo the whole thing, the whole damn thing. And I want to bring this part up here in the article, the last part. But remaking it significantly with extensive rewrites and hurried reshoots, just as the studio demanded. Now, why would the studio demand extensive rewrites and hurried reshoots? Well, here's what I've heard. Warner Media, Time Warner, was in the midst of being bought by several companies, one of them being AT&T. The deal was being finalized. AT&T was going to buy Time Warner, which included Warner Media, Warner Brothers, and everything, DC, all that good stuff. The Warner Brothers executives for that year, they were so worried about getting their bonuses, maybe their last bonuses, annual bonuses, that they didn't want to move Justice League. They didn't want to push it back for Zack Snyder. No, they wanted to hurry, finish the movie, put it out theatrically, so that way they could receive their bonuses. That's what I've heard. And then later I did Wikipedia research, and yeah, in 2018 the deal finalized. AT&T was now the owner of Time Warner, Warner Media, Warner Brothers, etc. And things have changed since then. But in 2017, the studio executives weren't worried about making a good movie, as we'll discuss here in the articles later on. They were worried about their bonuses. Why else would you not push back the movie? Especially if you want to do it right with Joss Whedon on board. Okay, we'll get to Joss Whedon. I'll get to Joss Whedon. But right now, I'm talking about that Warner Brothers regime. And yeah, it's pretty fucked up. It's pretty fucked up that they would just, half-ass this Justice League movie after Marvel just did Avengers, all because they wanted to receive whatever lump sum and bonuses before AT&T completed the transaction of purchasing Time Warner. So that's what I've heard. But again, let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Why do you think Warner Brothers hurried the reshoots to get the movie out on time? Let me know your thoughts. Let's continue. So one thing I wanted to bring out from the article here, and this isn't really news, but it's another reminder of the vision of Zack Snyder. And the article touches on his casting decisions for Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and it starts with Wonder Woman. I remember Gal saying to me, Zach, I was going to quit the business. I was getting ready to just move back to Tel Aviv and just have a life there. I was done with Hollywood. I was going to do this one more audition. Then she came in, and I was like, that's my Wonder Woman. Now she's the whole world's. And on the Aquaman character. In casting the role for Batman v Superman, Snyder decided to forego the blonde hair and blue eyes of the comic book hero in favor of the long, dark locks and smoky gaze of Jason Momoa. As you can see from the graphic right there. Yep, very smoky gaze. who had come in to audition for Bruce Wayne. He's a Pacific Islander. There's a connection to the sea. What if he's Aquaman? He remembers thinking. Everyone was like, "You're insane. That's not a thing." Now, as far as Aquaman goes, I'll start with that. As a Pacific Islander myself, this casting rumor I was so in love with from the moment I heard it. Brilliant. At the time, Jason Momoa was known as Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones, an absolute beast. I won't get into spoiler if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but you know what happens to the character. Anyways, you get that beast of a man, Jason Momoa, and you make him Aquaman, all of a sudden he's no longer, a laughing joke, a meme of DC Comics, because he was for a long time. And credit to Geoff Johns. Credit to Geoff Johns for the New 52, Throne of Atlantis story for Aquaman. That was a great job. I was so happy to hear that Jason Momoa was in fact Aquaman. I as a Pacific Islander, again, I have been waiting for years for Dwayne Johnson to play Black Adam on the big screen. I'm still waiting. I believe it's coming, but I'm still waiting. We got Aquaman. We got Aquaman and Batman v Superman. We got Aquaman the movie. A movie that I enjoy. Very, very rewatchable. And now we're going to get him again in Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I'm appreciative of that. And it was a brilliant decision by Zack Snyder. Gal Gadot, I wasn't so up in arms over, her casting news. I trusted Zack Snyder after he, gave us Henry Cavill as Superman. And I was absolutely for Ben Affleck as Batman. I was like, this Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. This is a Zack Snyder casting out of left field. And now we're at the point where, it's are fans really going to be up in arms whoever Zack Snyder casts? Assuming he does more DC films. Now, I think in Zack Snyder we trust, because as out of left field as these castings might be, he has credibility now. In my opinion, he has credibility. So let's continue with the article here. Okay, this is where it starts getting into the some of the troubling things behind the scenes here. Okay, so in 2016, mid 2016, Zack Snyder begins principal photography on Justice League. By that point, they were so deep in pre-production, everything was ready to go. Warner Brothers had the opportunity to fire Zack Snyder after Batman v Superman, but they didn't, because they were just there was so much work already done on Justice League that they had to get started. So here is some behind the scenes on the start of principal photography and what Warner Brothers decided to do after their reception of Batman v Superman. And it reads, in 2016, as principal photography got underway on Justice League in the United Kingdom, rumors percolated that Snyder had been fired from the film. That didn't happen, but Warner Brothers then chairman and CEO Kevin Tsuchihara did assign watchdogs in the form of DC Entertainment creative chief Geoff Johns and Warner Brothers co-production head Jon Berg. The edict was clear. At least one of them had to be on set every day. And in the graphic you see to the right, Geoff Johns, to the left, Jon Berg. It's good to finally put a face to the names that Ray Fisher has been talking about as far as the Justice League investigations and the reshoots. We'll get to the reshoots. But the article continues with them. Berg, who is now production president at Stampede, recalls that duty as a low point. It was really tricky and not a position that I love, to be honest. He says, I tried to be forthright about what I thought creatively. My job was to try and mediate between a creator whose vision is instinctually dark and a studio that perceived, rightly or wrong, that the fans wanted something lighter. I was respectful of the director and didn't pursue things that were coming at me from the corporate side that I thought weren't in line with what would make the best movie. Okay, so John Berg is saying that he was very uncomfortable being one of the watchdogs that Warner Brothers put on Zack Snyder during the um, principal photography of Justice League, and that he was respectful to the director. Okay, that's great. What about when Joss Whedon took over? And as we'll later find out, a lot of the cast was kind of hurt by how Zack Snyder left. And all of a sudden, the whole entire, movie, the tone, everything shifted. What about that? Hmm. No comment on Ray Fisher saying that, you weren't as respectful when it was Whedon under the on the director's chair. Yeah, yeah. How about that? And the article later mentions Geoff Johns did not want to comment at all. Joss Whedon didn't want to comment at all. So I think John Berger is doing his best to try and make it seem like he was a good guy. He just he had no choice, and he was made to do the things. He was forced to do the things that Ray Fisher is accusing him and Whedon and Geoff Johns of. So I just wanted to bring that up right there, and really, really put a light on how WB saw Zack Snyder during that time. Again, we've already talked about why they don't want to push everything back and delay it. So yeah, it just it gets ugly from there. So moving on, the article mentions one of the ideas that Zack Snyder had that Warner Brothers quickly shot down, scrapped, whatever you want to call it. And it involves the Lois Lane character and Bruce Wayne in a possible romance that never saw the light of day. Zack Snyder says the intention was that Bruce fell in love with Lois and then realized that the only way to save the world was to bring Superman back to life, Snyder says. So he had this insane conflict because Lois, of course, was still in love with Superman. We had this beautiful speech where Bruce said to Alfred, I never had a life outside the cave. I never imagined a world for me beyond this. But this woman makes me think that if I can get this group of gods together, then my job is done. I can quit, I can stop, and of course that doesn't work out for him. And fans are upset. Not all fans, but many of them are angry because of this idea that never saw the light of day. So why are you upset? It's like the Wonder Woman 1865 photo where she's holding the severed heads. Never saw the light of day, but you're still upset. Anyways, Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane romance, or, as close of a romance as you can get because she's still in love with Clark Kent. Not unheard of, okay? Did actually happen, I believe, in the comics and definitely on the animated show. But yeah, I mean, reading about Zack Snyder's, approach to it, it was so much more than just, fan service or, whatnot. It definitely would have added to Bruce Wayne's humanity. Okay. The fact that he tells Alfred, I never had a life outside of the cave. Okay. I never imagined a world for me beyond this. And the fact that he got a little taste of that and then realizes that Lois is still in love with Superman and to save the world is to unite these group of gods, and that is his mission. So, again, as Snyder stated, they were never going to be a thing. And if they were, it would have been very, very temporary. And so I find that interesting. I find it interesting that Snyder would have went that route. I mean, yeah, it probably would have gotten, some hate. I mean, look at that. The idea never saw the day of light, and it's already getting hate. But yeah, it's just one of the ideas, one of his ideas, and I'm curious what you guys who are watching this video think about Bruce Wayne, Lois Lane, and that whole um, idea that he had to kind of make them have a little thing. Obviously, would have served a bigger arc in Zack Snyder's mind, but nevertheless, let me know your thoughts on that. Moving on, yeah, I remember when I said things get a little bit, dark. Well, Warner Brothers started giving Zack Snyder, more mandates, and he was already getting enough notes during the production of Justice League. And here's one of those mandates. Zack Snyder says, there was a mandate from Tsujihara that the movie had to be 2 hours long, says Snyder. That order had a paradoxical impact because it meant eliminating much of the heart and humor the studio also wanted, like a comical, romantic subplot between Ezra Miller's Flash and Kiersey Clemens' Iris, the latter of whom was absent entirely from the Whedon film. And the article continues, Snyder also saw a bigger structural problem with the make it shorter order. How am I supposed to introduce 6 characters, an alien with potential for world domination in 2 hours? I mean, I can do it. It can be done. Clearly, it was done. But he says, referring to Whedon's version, but I didn't see it. So, Zack Snyder had a script already written with Chris Terrio. And Warner Brothers, being who they were at the time, and maybe still are today, was very reactionary. Very reactionary, okay? All right. They already, with Batman v Superman, if you recall, they cut that movie down so much that it just, it was destroyed by critics. And they were trying to do the same thing with Justice League. Cut it down so much so it can get destroyed by critics. Okay. I'm not saying people, when Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, came out, all of a sudden everybody liked it. But a lot of people liked it more than the theatrical version. So why would you do the same thing? And for some of you fans out there who are saying, well, if Marvel could do a movie in 2 hours, so can DC. Yeah, that's true. But this isn't some, just a standard comic book movie. This is an event film, a team up. Okay? And don't give me that it takes 5, 6 movies to build toward that. Okay? I hate that argument. Okay? Not everything has to be like Marvel. You can experiment and try different things. And clearly that's what Zack Snyder was trying to do. And Warner Brothers didn't want that, even though they agreed to move forward with the principal photography. They didn't want that. They wanted it to be exactly like Marvel. And you know what? They tried with the 2017 movie, and look how that turned out. And it supports my, firm stance that when DC tries to be like Marvel, they fail. They fail, okay? Suicide Squad. Batman v Superman, watered down from the Ultimate Edition. Justice League, 2017. Hell, Aquaman, a movie that I enjoy, a movie that I find highly rewatchable. For many people, oh, so many problems with that movie. This and that. That is the closest DC movie that I think is good. That is, closest to being a Marvel movie. And people still don't like it. You can't win. DC tries to be like Marvel, does a pretty good job at it. No, I hate it. DC tries to do its own thing. No, I hate it. DC tries to be experimental, and bold and try new things and push the boundaries of filmmaking for comic book movies. No, I hate it. You can't win. You honestly can't win. And it's just, with this Zack Snyder's Justice League, I'm not expecting everybody to like it, but the hell with the haters, the naysayers, whatnot. This movie's coming. This movie's happening, and a lot of people are gonna watch it, and maybe they'll enjoy it. I'm confident that they'll enjoy it more than the 2017 movie. But yeah, that was just my rant. Sorry about that. I get a little passionate about these things. So let's move on. So as the production for Justice League continues and goes on, there were reports back then that Zack Snyder wanted the help of Joss Whedon to help make the movie a bit lighter and add more fun to it. I remember these fucking articles like it was goddamn last week, okay? And yeah, this Vanity Fair article determined that all that was a lie. The article states, reports that Snyder himself asked Whedon for help were false. Johns, one of the studio-appointed babysitters, had been planning a Batgirl movie with Whedon, and Snyder and others say Johns recruited him to do rewrites for Justice League. Johns' representatives didn't respond to a request for comment. There we go. Once again, Snyder was gracious and even hopeful. I thought maybe he could write some cool scenes. I thought that would be fun. Yeah, Snyder, look, there he is right there, remaining open and collaborative. He's not George Lucas stubborn where it's my way or the highway. Zack Snyder, was a team player. Even when Warner Brothers was trying to fuck him over and get him out, he was being a team player. He was like, okay, here's a guy who did 2 Avengers movies. He knows a thing about team up movies, doing these kind of movies. Maybe he could help. And no, Geoff Johns had other plans, like getting Zack Snyder the fuck out. And you know what? Karma. But the main point to take away from this is Zack Snyder never asked for Joss Whedon's help. Never. Okay. And clearly Geoff Johns and Warner Brothers had other plans. In fact, they had no faith, as the article continues. This is where Joss Whedon took over for Zack Snyder. Geoff Johns got his wish, although the circumstances were really, really tragic. But Geoff Johns got his wish. Snyder left, Joss Whedon took over. And the article continues. Whedon rewrote and reshot about 3/4 of Justice League from what Snyder can gather. When fans ask him about details of the movie that bears his name, he usually has no idea what they're talking about. Worst of all, for Warner Brothers, Whedon didn't exactly save the movie. When we got to see what Josh actually did, it was stupefying, says the studio executive, who requested anonymity. The robber on the rooftop, so goofy and awful. The Russian family, so useless and pointless. Everyone knew it. It was awkward because nobody wanted to admit what a piece of shit it was. So there you go. There you go. Warner Brothers knew this movie was a piece of shit and still put it out. They didn't delay it. Again, we talked about why they didn't delay it. Okay, money. But there is a studio executive who didn't want to be, didn't want his name on this article, probably because he still works there. And he's saying, yeah, this thing was terrible. But we put it out there anyway. And now they want us to forget it. Why do you think they want Zack Snyder's Justice League to just go away? Because if this movie is really great, it's gonna make them look dumb as hell. God, man, like this Vanity Fair was a good article, but it just gets your blood boiling because it's shit that us DC fans knew that okay, vloggers and bloggers and film journalists, critics, whatever you want to call them, bloggers, they laughed in our fucking faces. They told us you're tripping. Zack Snyder is the reason the DC universe failed. Stop that shit. Stop the shit. That's not true at all. Okay? And now they're saying it's not true. Who are you gonna believe? Who are you gonna believe? Vanity Fair? Or are you gonna believe some other blog or Reddit, whatever? Stop it. Anyways, so the article continues, and it gets into toxic fandom here. This was really interesting. This is something that a lot of DC fans, where the article started losing them. A noxious contingent of followers, though, didn't just advocate for the movie, but also used social media to attack people who were critical of Snyder or their cause. Maybe they hoped to silence dissenters, or maybe they were just trolls being trolls. In any case, film journalists with negative takes reported getting swarmed with insults and even threats. Unfortunately, I think a lot of online fandom and fandom culture is headed in this very toxic direction, says Kayla Donaldson, who writes for whatever site. It's especially strong from Snyder acolytes, she adds, perhaps because they respond misguidedly to the director's tales of loner heroes in a hostile world. All right, let me stop you right there. I have another graphic that I want to bring up because her conversation continues. But let me stop you right there. You think you got it bad, Kayla Donaldson? You think you had it bad? Okay. And the article, I really wish they would have brought somebody from the fandom movement of Release the Snyder Cut movement. They would have brought somebody in, somebody who was one of the people that Zack Snyder interviewed during DC Fandom, or somebody from comicbook.com's documentary, somebody in to represent and tell the movement side of the story. Okay. Release the Snyder Cut was a laughing joke to people with a voice, to people who worked for these film sites. Okay. They didn't believe that. Remember, it's that's a pipe dream. You remember that? Yeah. How about the countless times that the movement tried to do something good for AFSP and people just laughed at them. People clowned them. People trolled them and said the Snyder Cut's never happening. Get over it. Get over it. Zack Snyder's a terrible filmmaker. He messed up the DCEU. Yeah. You think you have it bad? Try being us, okay? Try being a fan, a defender of Zack Snyder, and having to deal with the amount of BS, the amount of opinion pieces about DC this, Zack Snyder that. It's been a long couple of fucking years, okay? I'm not saying you probably didn't have to deal with some toxic behavior yourself. I'm not saying that, but put your feet in our shoes, okay? And think for a second what exactly the past couple of years have been like, okay? We've been defending Zack Snyder for years, defending him for years about the kind of shit that Vanity Fair is talking about. Okay. Warner Brothers, they made him the fall guy. They made Zack Snyder the fall guy. And now that's coming to light. And now he's getting the last laugh. So excuse us if we seem a little tense sometimes, okay? Because as far as I'm concerned, you got a legion of critics who don't like his movies, and that's their opinion. But then they go out of their way to make it seem like they're more superior than us because they have a platform. No, you ain't. And then you have these vloggers, people who I won't mention, but I really want to right now, who just say shit just for the clout because they know that we will jump and defend. And what does that mean? More clicks, more interaction, more comments, etc. So, critics, vloggers, journalists, and there's one person I'm thinking of from back at DC Fandom who commented on a leaked trailer. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we've been dealing with. Every time we get excited or happy about, some progress being made for release of Snyder Cut, there was always those assholes out there who had to remind us of the 2017 Justice League movie, who had to remind us that Warner Brothers is moving beyond that DC will never be as great as Marvel, and so on and so forth. Okay. So excuse us if we get a little flustered sometimes. Anyways, she continues to say, I don't get this from Birds of Prey fans or the Shazam fans. Oh, I'll talk about that in a second, says Donaldson. I got a little bit from Joker fans, but nowhere near the same level. Nonetheless, she's looking forward to Snyder's movie. Is she? I think 300 is great fun. I think the first 10 minutes of Watchmen are some of the best things that any superhero movie has ever done. Well, we're in agreement there. Even if she doesn't end up liking the Snyder Cut, she says, I would rather watch one person's chaos than a committee's snooze fest. And you know what? I will give you credit for that quote right there. I would rather watch one person's chaos than a committee's snooze fest. I actually like that. That puts a smile on my face. But you know why you didn't get that from Birds of Prey fans or Shazam fans? Okay. Birds of Prey and Shazam, I enjoy those movies. Okay. Are they the best DC movies? Not in my opinion. Not anywhere close. But I enjoy those movies. Who are the directors for Shazam and Birds of Prey? You have what's his name, David F. Sandberg, who's a director I'm a fan of, and you have Kathy Yan, I believe, who directed Birds of Prey. Okay, neither of them are Zack Snyder, and I'm not saying that in a as far as trying to quality filmmakers. I'm saying neither of them are Zack Snyder in this sense. Zack Snyder, and this article does a great job of it. Zack Snyder is somebody who is very well liked, very well respected, seemingly more than a lot of directors in Hollywood. And he's very well liked by people who work on projects with him. They have the nicest things to say about him. You never hear any controversial stuff about Zack Snyder. But also, Zack Snyder has a certain connection with his fans, a connection that many directors in Hollywood do not have with their fans. Okay, there is a reason why he is so beloved. He is beloved. He is great. He's he's everything that fans love about a filmmaker who takes on these properties, these characters that we care about. He's everything that you would want from a character's perspective. Okay, he when we feel like media is being unfair to him, unfair criticism, that he's getting a lot of hate, we would jump to defend Zack Snyder. That's something you don't see much of in Hollywood. That's something you sure as hell don't see much of over at Marvel. Yeah, that's why you don't get it from Birds of Prey or Shazam. Okay, Zack Snyder is a different kind of filmmaker. Okay, very well respected, very liked, has a special connection with his fans, has a special connection with his colleagues. Also, Justice League, Birds of Prey and Shazam, not the same as Justice League. You're talking about a DC event movie featuring Henry Cavill Superman, which, by the way, Warner Brothers has not given him a Man of Steel sequel. Still, it's in 2 years, it'll be 10 years. But Henry Cavill, Superman, you got Ben Affleck's Batman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa's Aquaman, etc. Ray Fisher's Cyborg, Ezra Miller's Flash. These aren't the same movies as far as like scale of them is concerned. Shazam and Birds of Prey, they're fine movies, okay? You're talking about Justice League, a team up event film, who from the start, fans have always speculated that Snyder from the start was fucked over from Warner Brothers. And we just talked about it. We just talked about it right now. So, yeah, that's why you haven't gotten the same kind of thing from Shazam or Birds of Prey. Okay, for the most part, people think that those movies are fine. With Justice League, yeah, that movie was a piling piece of crap. And we all knew that a better version existed. Not a complete cut. Nobody's saying the complete cut existed with finished VFX. But we're saying a better version of that movie does exist. And we want to see it. And no fucking journalist, blogger, vlogger, whatever is going to get in our fucking way. Okay? We will make our voices heard to Warner Brothers. And you might get annoyed, but you know what? At least we have the courage to fight for what we want. And you know what? We're getting what we want next month, and you get to enjoy it as well. You're welcome. Let's continue. So Zack Snyder gives his opinion on toxic fans. And remember what I said about toxic fans. Every fandom has their Kobas. Kobas, you know, the ones who are out of control, who let their emotions get the best of them, who are triggered easily and end up saying things and fighting hate speech with hate speech and makes the rest of us look bad. But here's the article, and here's Zack Snyder. The trolls may have actually held back the movement like looters at an otherwise peaceful demonstration. Snyder cringes at descriptions of the abusive tactics. I 100% think it's wrong, he says. I don't think that anyone should be calling anyone anything. I've always tried to give people in the fandom attention who do good things. And you know what? He has. I've seen him pop up on a number of, fan YouTube channels like mine. I would love to one day get him on my channel, even just for 10 minutes, just to stop by, just to tell him thank you and that I love him. But yeah, Snyder is not for toxic fans, okay, who might, spend. I'm sure he's appreciative of them spending their time, money, resources, energy defending the filmmaker, and defending his movies, his work. But like I said, you don't fight hate speech with hate speech, okay? If you can't have a conversation where you can, share your opinions, your ideas, your beliefs, while hopefully educating the other person on your perspective, where you're coming at with this, and just have a conversation, then don't bother. Don't bother, there are so many times on Twitter where I really want to jump in a conversation and just own this person with they have such a bad take on this movie or whatnot. But then it's like, what's the point? It's just it would just be a waste of time and energy, and there'd be no point. But yeah, there's Snyder's take on toxic fans. All right, so the article continues with Warner Brothers calling Zack Snyder to have a conversation about revisiting the Snyder Cut. The fans have prevailed. Release the Snyder Cut trended with over 1 million tweets back in 2019. And here's how that went. November 2019 brought a sustained hashtag push on Twitter, which Snyder promoted. Godot and Affleck were now calling for his cut to be released too. A few days later, Toby Emmerich, chairman of Warner Brothers Picture Group, called Snyder with an offer. Let's try again. A lot of people at the company, myself included, always felt badly that Zack didn't get to finish his version of the film because of the circumstances, says Emmerich. So if there was a way to make it logistically and financially possible, which HBO Max did, and Zack had a willingness to do it, it seemed like a win for everybody. And Snyder continues to say, initially, Snyder says, Warner Brothers just wanted to release the raw footage on his laptop. I was like, that's a no. That's a hard no, he says. And they're like, but why? You can just put it up the rough cut. Snyder didn't trust their motivations. I go, here's why. 3 reasons. 1, you get the internet off your back, which is probably your main reason for wanting to do this. 2, you get to feel vindicated for making things right, I guess, on some level. And 3, you get a shitty version of the movie that you can point at and go, see, it's not that good anyway. So maybe I was right. I was like, no chance. I would rather just have the Snyder Cut be a mythical unicorn for all time. Zack Snyder, bravo, man. You know, he mentioned back in 2017 that he didn't have the fight, obviously, because, the passing of his daughter, Autumn Snyder. This time he had the fight. Oh, he had the fight this time. You know why? Because he knew how important this was to the fans. Okay. And along the way, he too became a believer that this could actually happen. Which, by the way, it's not because of Warner Brothers that this happened. Sure, they may have made the phone call, and who knows if Warner Media or AT&T pressured them into doing it, to at least have a conversation about, can this happen? But it was HBO Max. It was HBO Max that came in, put up the money, $70 million, and made this thing a reality. Okay? So it was the perfect culmination of circumstances. The fans, Affleck Godot, 1 million tweets, Zack Snyder's willingness, HBO Max. And here we are. Less than a month away. I still can't believe it. So from there, the article continues. Snyder estimates that it cost around $70 million to undo Whedon's redo. For that, HBO Max gets 4 hours of highly anticipated programming and the Hollywood comeback story of a lifetime. Snyder himself gets nothing. I'm not getting paid, he says. He was paid the first time, of course. This time, he wants creative control, and foregoing a fee helped. I didn't want to be beholden to anyone, and it allowed me to keep my negotiating powers with these people pretty strong. And you know what? Again, more of a reason to commend Snyder. He doesn't want to get paid for this. There is the feeling of finishing this movie, presenting it to the world, and saying, my version was absolutely better, is a priceless feeling, I'm sure. But it's also personal for Zack Snyder as well. He says later on, and I think I have a quote on this, but this doesn't happen without Autumn Snyder, and this also gives them a little bit of closure on just a dark time, for the Snyders. And so, yeah, good on him for forfeiting his pay. He knows exactly the kind of studio he was dealing with Warner Brothers, and creative control means so much more than a nice payday when working with that studio. So that's good for you, Snyder. And even Ray Fisher weighs in. Fisher, for one, was eager to return. There's not a day that's gone by over the last 3 years I haven't thought about this movie, that I have not sat up at night thinking, What if there was a world wherein this thing actually does get released, says the actor, sitting on set in his grayscale motion capture suit. I probably should have let it go, but there was so much that we left behind in this version of the film. It's a completely different movie. And yes, it is. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to remember if there was a day where I didn't think about Zack Snyder's Justice League, release the Snyder Cut movement, or DC. Yeah, I don't think I don't think there's been a day. And that's crazy to think. This whole thing has meant that much to me, and I'm sure you guys as well, many of you out there even more. But man, yeah, there hasn't been a day. I don't think there's been a day. I'm trying to remember the last time. It was a whole day I didn't think about this movement, these fans, Zack Snyder, this universe. I need a new hobby. Man. Let's continue. And finally, the article gets into, it has no problem touching on toxic fans, but now it gets into the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention and what these fans did. As for the fan base, the Snyder movement has contributed $500,000 to the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention through donations, sales of merchandise, and auction of props. People have been saying, "Oh, they attack people," says Deborah Snyder, her eyes tearing up. But this fan base has saved lives. As much as they wanted something for themselves, they've come together for this amazing cause. You feel so helpless trying to help someone, and you don't know what to do. It's literally life or death, and I felt like we didn't really know where to turn. Yeah, Deborah Snyder is getting a little deep there with her last bit of quotes. But yeah, guys, look, again, I've happily made donations myself, and I have a lot of gear coming in from Ink to the People and their Zack Snyder Justice League merchandise. But again, I want to commend everyone who's ever made a donation to this great cause. It really separates us from other fandoms. The fact that we're able to pull this off, and these trolls and bloggers and whatnot, they might be annoyed at us or label us toxic or whatever they want because of a few bad apples, but they won't take away the accomplishments. And it's not just a charity aspect anymore. It's the fact that somehow, some way, we played a big role, a big part in Zack Snyder's Justice League seeing the light of day. I'm not saying that's a reason to think of us any higher, better than other people. It certainly doesn't give, the charity aspect doesn't give us the right to be toxic to whoever we want. But these are things you can never take away from the fandom, regardless of how you feel. And finally, the last graphic I want to bring up from this article. Very interesting. And the article finishes by saying, rebuilding the story he had always envisioned is what invigorates Snyder most. He can go as deep and dark as he likes. He can say to hell with DC's official timeline for the characters and let this alternate version of the Justice League story wind up wherever he pleases. He has put Superman in a sleek black suit instead of the iconic blue and red. He's added the Joker, Jared Leto. He has reshot the ending with a hero cameo that will blow hardcore fans' minds. And what may be a divisive move, he's also presenting the movie in the boxy 4:3 format rather than widescreen so that one day it can be watched on IMAX screens. A couple things to take away. This might be the alternate version of the Justice League story, but it is also the original one, the real one. and I will never watch that 2017 movie for as long as I live. And two, that's interesting. You say a hero cameo that will blow the minds of fans. There's a reason why I put the Green Lantern graphic in the background, and he's been teasing it from the very beginning. I believe it was the third trailer for Justice League. He says, the Steppenwolf character says, "No protectors on this world, no lanterns, no Kryptonian." I think, and I know that there's an article out there right now speculating. I heard a rumor it's this, but I think it's Green Lantern. Why not? This may be his only chance. And I'm being realistic here. This may be Zack Snyder's only chance, because who knows if he wants to come back and do another DC movie. I think he does, but who knows? This may be his only chance to have Green Lantern somewhere in this 4-hour epic. And I'd be losing my mind if it were Green Lantern. For sure. But yeah, to wrap it up, I think this Vanity Fair article was really well done. I thought it was fair. I'm still upset at Toby Emmerich, at Geoff Johns, Joss Whedon, Jon Berg, for reasons that I've already stated before. And yeah, it's nice for people to finally see that even though Zack Snyder's name is on that 2017 movie, that is not his movie. That is not his movie one bit. And you know, I'm personally happy because for years Zack Snyder has gotten so much unfair criticism, so much hate, and now people are starting to see who the real bad guys in this story are. And I'm not expecting anybody, nor do I want anybody, to give a favorable review for Zack Snyder's Justice League as their way of apologizing to Zack Snyder for anything they may have said. I just want people to realize that it was not Zack Snyder's fault that this DC universe was just a complete mess. And hopefully you go into Zack Snyder's Justice League with an open mind. So yeah, that's going to do it for the Fandom United podcast. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your subscriptions and your comments. I really do love your comments. Thank you so much. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Grey Goose Jedi, and look out for my Superman and Lois review. The first episodes are coming out tonight as of this recording, and I will have a review up. And until then, you guys be safe out there, especially if you're out there in the cold areas. And I will catch you guys on the next podcast.